What if I told you you could save 6 hours when it comes to creating content for your business? Would you give it some consideration? If so, you are going to love this week's episode of Connect the Dots or my video this week if you're watching this on YouTube. And the reason being is I'm going to be talking about repurposing content, starting with video. You guessed it, starting with video. And I'm going to walk through a couple of examples of how I've used video content and repurposed it on different channels, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. If you're interested in how you too could save time repurposing content by starting with video, whether you've started creating video for your business or not, this will give you the idea that I need to start creating video because it will make my life easier. And you guessed it, it will save you time. So if that sounds like something of interest, you're in the right place. Let's get to it. Let's go on to the reason why we're here today, and it's about repurposing content. So repurposing content, when you can take one piece of content and create multiple additional pieces of content, or when you can take any one piece of content that you've already posted, for example, like on LinkedIn, and then share it again on something like Facebook. So repurposing takes on different contexts or different forms. So why would you want to repurpose content? Most common question that I receive is that why should I even think about it? Because people create content and they think they have to constantly be creating new content. But what this does is, especially us as entrepreneurs and business owners and wearing multiple hats constantly, it's a time saver for you. If you can create one piece of content and put it in different places, then, you're still continuing to get your brand out there, but you're not reinventing the wheel with every piece of content that you're creating. So it creates brand consistency, message consistency. And then you can reach your audience with different types of media as well. So your video, your audio, your text. You can also reach your audience in different social platforms. And I break them down here with, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest. You could reach the same audience at different times. So you might have people on LinkedIn, and if you're going to share a piece of content today that's relevant 6 months from now, then you can take that piece of content if it performed well, or maybe if it didn't perform well, post it again, and you're reaching a completely different audience than you did the first time that you shared it. But then I can also show you across different platforms. So here's an example of a quote that I used of Seth Godin. I think we all know who Seth Godin is, but he's one of my favorite people in the marketing space, very intelligent, change maker, risk taker. Created this post, and I, at one time, and this was like when I did the timestamp, it was 10 months ago, I created this, and then again 2 months ago. But why did I do that? Well, because it's still a relevant quote and it's one that I like. Will I repurpose it again? Possibly. Now, would I want to recreate it and use the same thing, change the background? I could, but the messaging in it's a little bit different too, right? And I got engagement on both of them. Then I took my podcast and I created a PDF document to post on LinkedIn about repurposing content. That I posted it once 2 years ago, and then I waited a year and reposted it again. So different messaging, but I'm reaching, you can see the first time where I wasn't as engaged on LinkedIn, I think it says 4 likes. And then the second time there was 26 likes, and then, a lot of comments, and somebody even shared it. You can see there that I'm using the same piece of content, using it multiple times and reaching a wider audience. So there's a lot of value in that. And there's no timestamp, right? You don't have to wait a certain time between using the same content. Depends on what's going on in your business. If you don't have time to recreate or even create a new piece of content, but a piece of content engaged well, then use that, repost it again, and don't worry about it. We all have a ton of content already created. So why not leverage what you've spent hours and hours upon creating and use it again? This is one that I did as well that shows video bloopers. I liked this one because it was fun to create. It was my cat, Chloe, actually meowing in the background. So I posted it 2 different times, and you can see that the engagement was different as well. They're both the same video clip, but in this one, which I think was the more recent one 2 months ago, I just added, a caption to see if it would get any more attention. So that's an example of taking a video that I had posted on LinkedIn. Now, an example across platforms would be something like if I took my YouTube video, posted it to LinkedIn, and then to Facebook. Okay, so here's just a screenshot of what it looks like on YouTube. And this was the sales funnel is the marketing life cycle, also known as customer journey. So I created the video, put it on YouTube, and then I also put it on Facebook, and then I also put it on LinkedIn. Messaging on this one was different. So you can see the text above, it's different. Sometimes I'll just copy and paste it on both platforms. Now, this one was a crazy one. And the reason why I'm showing this is because this was a topic that I was actually really passionate about. The first time I created this, I think, was in September of 2020. And there were people like Gary Vaynerchuk and really big influencers at the time that were talking about everybody should start a podcast. Like everybody, I mean, I was hearing it everywhere. And I'm like, would they also tell everybody that you should start your own business, that you should be on Facebook, that you should be on LinkedIn, that you should be on YouTube, and going down this whole thing. I'm like, everybody shouldn't start a podcast. Like you only start a podcast if it makes sense for your business and for your target audience. So I was just something that was just bothering me. And I'm like, I need to do I need to create a video and I need to create a podcast episode about this. Here I started it. It was September 29th of 2020. I created a podcast episode first, and then I put it on my show notes, which is essentially like a blog post on my website. Okay, I embedded it in there, did my show notes. I'm going to show you like the ideal way to do this, but this is just kind of a backwards way of doing it. And I'm going to show the time associated with this as well. So podcast first, show notes. Then I created a poll on LinkedIn, just kind of asking everybody. And you can see 104 votes was pretty good, but you can see that it got, pretty high ratings. And most people agreed with me. It's not for everybody. And then I created a video, and that was in October of 2020. And you can see that one had 56 views. And then I posted it on Facebook. And then I created a short, and that one got 738 views. So you can see the exposure that I got from this one piece of content. Now, if you look at the dates on all of these, you can see that it was a recreation of content every single time. So that can become very time consuming outside of the short, because those are, they have to be less than 60 seconds. But had I not done the short, the easiest piece of content in this grouping, I would have missed out on 738 people seeing me, seeing my brand, and then also getting people to go to the actual video itself or the podcast episode. Okay, so if we take all of those pieces, which are right here that I just talked about with the podcast, and we start tying time to this, right? So, and I don't remember how long it took me. I'm just thinking back like, okay, it took me on average to record and edit, light editing on a podcast episode, about 2 hours. And that's like doing the upload and the publishing and all that stuff. Then to write and format the show notes on my website, and then to record, edit, and publish the video. That, of course, is going to be the longest. And then the shorts didn't take long. I think I redid a take like 2 or 3 times. And then posting on Facebook, of course, isn't going to take long. And then the poll itself, and then the comments. You can see there's 73 comments. So I upped it. That was probably a little bit high, but just for simple math purposes. So if we look at all of this time going backwards, starting with a podcast and recreating everything, it was 8.5 hours. It was over an entire day, like a normal 8 to 5 work day. So I'm like, if I did this every single week with a new episode, I'm essentially losing a day of my time. But if you look at what I focus on being starting with video, okay, you record it. You're not doing editing. You're not doing anything. You're recording it and you're actually publishing it. So you would do that part yourself, right? Still do the shorts, still 15 minutes, still post it on Facebook, still create the poll and the responses. So I kept all the times the same except for the actual video, because this is taking out the editing piece. Now you're talking about 2.5 hours, which seems completely doable, right? Now you're probably saying, okay, what about all the other ones? That's where the video comes in handy, because you can take video, you can outsource the editing, You can then convert an MP4 to an MP3. So very quickly convert it to a podcast episode, and then just, a little bit of time, creating the description and everything you need to do when you publish it. And then you can get the text from your video on YouTube to then copy and paste all of the captions and do some light editing for the show notes, right? So that's like, it's a huge time saver. If you can save 6 hours every single week, I mean, would you save that amount of time? The value of repurposing really comes down to the intent behind repurposing content is to leverage your time that you spent creating that initial piece of content and really maximizing and leveraging it in as many ways as possible. Starting with video gives you more possible ways to create content and repurpose it. So if that's something that you're interested in doing, I invite you to take the quiz that I've created to help you identify a personalized plan for you that incorporates video no matter where you are on your video journey. If you're listening to this on Connect the Dots, which is episode number 133, you can access the link at the show notes or in the show notes, or to access the quiz, you can go to vickioneal.com/quiz, and that'll get you there as well. If you're watching this on YouTube, I've included the link in the description. You can also just navigate very easily to vickioneal.com/quiz. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you investing your time and energy in this channel or in this podcast. And until next time, make today great.